First story, by Jake Anderson. It was a sweltering summer afternoon in the heartland of Iowa, and the cornfields stretched for miles under the merciless sun. I had grown up in these endless rows of golden crops, their rustling leaves whispering secrets only a farmer could understand. The small town of Ames lay just a few miles away, a haven for those who appreciated the simplicity of rural life. On that particular day, I found myself alone on our family farm, tasked with the mundane chore of repairing a broken fence. The air hung heavy with the scent of earth and corn pollen as I worked, sweat dripping down my face. The rhythmic chirping of crickets and the distant hum of farm equipment provided a familiar symphony. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the fields, I heard an unsettling sound, a low, guttural growl. I froze, my hands still gripping the pliers I used for the fence. The growl repeated, closer this time, sending shivers down my spine. Fear gripped me as I scanned the dimming landscape. Ames was known for its wildlife, but this was different. I squinted into the fading light and caught a glimpse of movement among the cornstalks. A figure emerged, shrouded in the dusk, their features indistinct. I strained my eyes, heart pounding, as the growls intensified. With every step, the figure became clearer, a man, disheveled and covered in dirt, his eyes wild and vacant. The growls turned into incoherent muttering as he stumbled toward me. I backed away, my mind racing. The man seemed lost, disoriented, and there was an unsettling emptiness in his gaze. As he drew nearer, I noticed his hands were caked with fresh soil, as if he had been digging. Panic set in as I realized the source of the growling, the muffled cries emanating from a shallow pit in the cornfield. Dread washed over me, and I took hesitant steps toward the source of the disturbance. Peering into the pit, my heart sank. A hastily covered hole revealed the lifeless eyes of a dog, its body limp and motionless. The man's muttering grew louder, and I could make out disjointed phrases about voices in the soil, a pact with the land. His obsession with the earth had led to this gruesome scene. Terrified, I retreated from the macabre discovery, the man's vacant gaze following my every move. I sprinted towards the farmhouse, the rhythmic drumming of my own footsteps echoing in my ears. The distant howls of coyotes added to the dissonant symphony of that dreadful night. The authorities were called, and the man was taken away, his connection to the land unraveling into madness. The pit in the cornfield was filled, but the horror of that encounter lingered. The seemingly serene countryside had concealed a disturbed soul, and the once familiar cornfields now held a darker secret. Second story, by Emma Thompson. Nestled in the quiet outskirts of rural Ohio, the Johnson family farm spread across acres of fertile land. The farmhouse, weathered but welcoming, stood as a testament to generations of hard work and perseverance. It was in this serene countryside setting that I, Emma Thompson, found myself one summer, helping out with the farm chores. One sultry evening, with the sun casting long shadows over the fields, I decided to take a leisurely stroll through the cornfields. The golden waves of corn stretched endlessly, rustling in the warm breeze. The aroma of earth and ripening corn hung in the air as I meandered through the labyrinth of stalks. As I delved deeper into the heart of the cornfield, an uneasy feeling settled over me. The familiar rustling of leaves took on a sinister tone, and an inexplicable tension hung in the atmosphere. I dismissed it as the product of an overactive imagination, attributing the unease to the isolation of the fields. In the distance, I spotted an isolated scarecrow, its silhouette stark against the fading light. A closer look revealed a peculiar detail. The scarecrow seemed to be facing away from the cornfield, as if deliberately turning its back on the crops it was meant to protect. Intrigued, I approached, my curiosity overcoming the unease. As I circled the scarecrow, a guttural growl echoed through the air, sending a chill down my spine. I halted, scanning the surroundings for the source of the unnerving sound. The cornstalks seemed to close in around me, their whispering leaves now carrying a malevolent undertone. A shadowy figure emerged from the depths of the cornfield, moving with an unnatural grace. The setting sun cast an eerie glow on the figure, revealing a gaunt face and hollow eyes. Panic gripped me as I realized that this was no ordinary encounter. The scarecrow, facing away, concealed the true horror lurking in the field. The figure, clad in tattered clothing, advanced with deliberate steps. The growls intensified, now accompanied by a low, menacing laughter that seemed to emanate from the very earth beneath my feet. Desperation set in as I turned to flee, but the cornfield seemed to shift, disorienting me in its maze-like expanse. The laughter echoed louder, resonating with an otherworldly malevolence. My breath quickened, heart pounding in my chest, as I stumbled through the labyrinth of corn stalks. The figure pursued, always just beyond my line of sight, a spectral presence in the fading light. Finally, I burst through the edge of the cornfield, gasping for breath. The farmhouse loomed in the distance, a beacon of safety against the encroaching darkness. The laughter and growls faded, leaving me standing on the outskirts of the Johnson family farm, shaken and disoriented. The incident remained etched in my memory, a chilling reminder that even the idyllic countryside could harbor secrets and terrors. The cornfields, once a symbol of abundance and simplicity, now held a sinister allure, their rustling leaves concealing an encounter that transcended the boundaries of the ordinary. Third Story, by Marcus Rodriguez. The sun dipped below the vast expanse of cornfields in rural Indiana, casting long shadows over the flat landscape. I, Marcus Rodriguez, had recently taken up residence in the sleepy town of Terre Haute, seeking solace in the simplicity of farm life after the hustle of city living. Little did I know that the serene countryside held secrets that would unravel my sense of security. One evening, I received an invitation from a friendly neighbor named Harold to join him on his farm for a corn harvest celebration. Eager to embrace the local community, I accepted the offer. The festivities were in full swing when I arrived at Harold's farmhouse, an old, sturdy structure that exuded warmth. As the night wore on, laughter and the smell of freshly cooked corn on the cob filled the air. Harold regaled us with stories of the farm's history and the tight-knit community that had thrived there for generations. The mood was festive, and the flickering lanterns cast a warm glow on the gathering. However, as the night progressed, a palpable tension began to overshadow the celebration. Hushed whispers circulated among the locals, their glances cast toward the expansive fields that surrounded us. I approached Harold, inquiring about the sudden change in atmosphere, but he dismissed it as mere superstition. Undeterred, I decided to explore the cornfields on my own, hoping to uncover the source of the unease. The moon hung low in the sky, casting an ethereal glow on the rustling stalks as I ventured deeper into the labyrinth. The distant sounds of the celebration faded, replaced by the gentle susurration of the wind through the leaves. As I navigated the maze-like rows, an unsettling realization dawned. The cornfields seemed to stretch endlessly, far beyond the boundaries of Harold's farm. The air grew thick with an indescribable tension, and the once familiar landscape became disorienting, the rows of corn taking on an almost hypnotic quality. Amid the undulating sea of corn, I glimpsed a figure moving with silent grace. Panic surged as I strained to see more clearly. The figure appeared humanoid, yet there was an otherworldly aura that set it apart. It moved with an unsettling fluidity, disappearing and reappearing among the stalks. My heart pounded in my chest as I quickened my pace, determined to unravel the mystery that loomed ahead. The figure led me deeper into the heart of the cornfield, where the rustling leaves took on a spectral quality, as if concealing a presence that defied understanding. Abruptly, the figure halted, and the cornstalks seemed to part, revealing a hidden clearing bathed in an otherworldly glow. A sense of foreboding gripped me as I beheld a group of locals, clad in tattered clothing, engaged in a ritualistic ceremony. The air hummed with an eerie energy, and their vacant eyes seemed to acknowledge a presence beyond the earthly realm. I watched in silent horror as they chanted in an ancient tongue, their gestures invoking an entity that transcended the boundaries of the natural world. The figure that had led me there now joined the ceremony, its features obscured by a haunting shadow. The realization struck. Harold's farm harbored a secret cult, connected to forces beyond human comprehension. Fear rooted me in place as the ceremony reached its crescendo, the air pulsating with an otherworldly energy. The figure turned towards me, its eyes piercing the darkness. With a sudden surge of dread, I turned and fled, crashing through the cornfield in a desperate bid for escape. The celebration continued behind me, the rhythmic chanting and spectral glow fading into the distance. I emerged from the cornfield, gasping for breath, the farmhouse looming in the distance like a beacon of normalcy. The revelry continued, oblivious to the sinister secrets that lurked in the heart of the cornfields. Haunted by the encounter, I grappled with the knowledge that the seemingly tranquil countryside held a darkness that transcended the idyllic facade. The cornfields, once a symbol of agricultural abundance, now bore witness to a ritualistic dance with forces that defied explanation. Fourth Story, by Olivia Turner. In the heart of the rolling hills of Kentucky, my family's farm nestled between sprawling cornfields and a thick woodland. The picturesque scenery often masked the eerie tales whispered among the locals about the mysterious occurrences that unfolded after sunset. I, Olivia Turner, dismissed these tales as rural legends until one fateful night shattered my skepticism. One warm summer evening, a peculiar stillness settled over the farm, an uncanny calm that contrasted with the usual symphony of crickets and rustling leaves. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting elongated shadows across the fields, and I found myself drawn to the cornfields that bordered the edge of the woods. As I traversed the familiar rows of corn, an unsettling sensation crept over me. The air hung heavy with an indescribable tension, and the rustling of the leaves took on a sinister undertone. Determined to dispel my unease, I pressed on, guided by the distant glow of fireflies dancing amid the stalks. Deeper into the cornfield, an otherworldly hum resonated through the air, and my surroundings seemed to warp and twist. The moon cast an eerie pallor on the landscape as I stumbled upon an ancient oak tree, its gnarled roots reaching into the soil like skeletal fingers. Beneath the twisted branches, a group of locals adorned in weathered garments gathered in a solemn circle. Their eyes gleamed with an unsettling intensity as they engaged in a ritual that seemed to transcend time itself. The air crackled with an energy that sent shivers down my spine. In the center of the circle, a figure draped in tattered robes chanted in a language unfamiliar to my ears. Symbols and runes were etched into the soil, pulsating with an otherworldly glow. My heart raced as I witnessed the convergence of forces that defied the laws of nature. Suddenly, the chanting ceased, and the air grew still. The figure turned to face me, its eyes alight with a spectral glow. Panic seized me as the ritual's participants shifted their gaze in unison, acknowledging my intrusion into their clandestine ceremony. With a surge of fear, I turned and sprinted through the cornfield, the rhythmic chanting and ethereal hum echoing behind me. The boundary between reality and the supernatural blurred, and the once familiar landscape became a maze of terror. As I emerged from the cornfield, the farmhouse stood on the horizon, bathed in the soft glow of moonlight. The ritual's eerie resonance faded, but the secrets of the cornfields lingered in my mind. The following day, the locals maintained a stoic silence, as if the events of the night before were a shared pact of silence. Haunted by the surreal encounter, I grappled with the knowledge that the farm I called home held secrets beyond my comprehension. The cornfields, once a source of sustenance, now concealed a dark underbelly that defied rational explanation. Fifth Story, by Samuel Walker. In the vast expanse of rural Nebraska, where the horizon seemed to stretch endlessly, my family's farm stood as a testament to generations of hard work and resilience. Little did I know that the seemingly tranquil cornfields harbored a mystery that would unravel my sense of reality. One balmy summer night, I found myself alone on the farm, a chorus of crickets providing the soundtrack to my solitude. The moon hung low in the sky, casting a soft glow on the swaying cornstalks that surrounded the farmhouse. A subtle unease settled over me as I wandered into the heart of the cornfields. The air thickened with an unnatural stillness, and the usual symphony of night sounds fell silent. I dismissed the eerie atmosphere as a product of my imagination, attributing it to the isolation of the countryside. As I ventured deeper, a peculiar phenomenon unfolded. A rhythmic tapping emanated from within the cornfield. Curiosity overcoming caution, I followed the rhythmic sound, weaving through the rows of corn. The tapping grew louder, resonating with an unsettling regularity. With each step, a sense of dread coiled in my stomach, and the moonlit landscape seemed to warp and distort. In the center of the cornfield, I stumbled upon an old well, its weathered stones and rusted pulley hinting at a forgotten history. The tapping, now more pronounced, echoed from the depths below. Peering into the darkness, I discerned the faint outline of a figure, its movements synchronized with the eerie sound. As my eyes adjusted to the dim light, I recoiled in horror. A gaunt face, pallid and sunken, stared back at me. The figure, clad in tattered clothing, continued its rhythmic tapping, the sound reverberating through the well. The tapping morphed into an eerie melody, a haunting refrain that echoed through the still night. A sense of unreality washed over me as I realized the figure was not alone. Shadows danced along the walls of the well, their movements mirroring the ghastly dance of the tapping figure. Fear rooted me in place as I witnessed a spectral congregation engaged in an otherworldly ritual. The figure's hollow eyes met mine, and a guttural voice echoed from the depths, reciting an ancient incantation. The air hummed with a malevolent energy as the ritual intensified. Panic surged through me, and I stumbled backward, the haunting melody and eerie voices fading as I retreated from the well. As I emerged from the cornfield, the night regained its normalcy, the symphony of crickets resuming its familiar cadence. The farmhouse stood before me, an anchor in the surreal landscape. The encounter with the spectral ritual lingered in my mind, a disconcerting reminder that the peaceful facade of the cornfields concealed a reality that defied explanation. Haunted by the experience, I sought solace in the daylight, but the memory of the tapping figure and the ghostly congregation persisted. The cornfields, once a source of abundance, now held a spectral secret that transcended the boundaries of the natural world. Sixth Story, by Emily Bennett. Nestled in the heart of Missouri, my family's farm sprawled across acres of lush fields and dense woods. The idyllic setting, however, masked a sinister undercurrent that revealed itself one ominous night. I, Emily Bennett, had always found solace in the countryside, but the events that unfolded in our cornfields shattered the tranquility I once cherished. On a moonlit night, with an otherworldly glow casting eerie shadows, I decided to explore the cornfields that bordered the edge of our property. The symphony of night sounds surrounded me as I ventured into the labyrinth of rustling stalks. The air was thick with an indefinable tension, and the usual nocturnal serenity felt disrupted. As I delved deeper, a strange phenomenon caught my attention. The cornstalks seemed to sway in unnatural unison, as if responding to an invisible force. My footsteps echoed in the quiet, and a subtle vibration hummed through the air. The once familiar landscape took on an unsettling quality, the rows of corn appearing as spectral sentinels. Amid the swaying cornstalks, I discerned a soft glow pulsating in the distance. A hypnotic pull urged me forward, and I followed the ethereal light to a clearing within the cornfield. There, a circle of locals clad in worn garments engaged in a ritualistic dance, their movements synchronized with an otherworldly rhythm. In the center of the circle, an ancient-looking scarecrow stood, its straw limbs contorting in impossible ways. The scarecrow's eyes glowed with an unnatural radiance, and its presence seemed to command the eerie dance unfolding around it. Fear coiled in my chest as I realized that this was no ordinary gathering. The dancers chanted in a language unknown to me, their voices rising and falling in a haunting cadence. The air buzzed with an energy that transcended the natural, and the once peaceful cornfield transformed into a stage for a malevolent spectacle. The scarecrow's hollow gaze seemed to penetrate my very soul, and a sense of impending doom washed over me. Unable to tear my eyes away, I watched as the ritual reached its zenith. The dancers' movements became more frenzied, their voices a cacophony of otherworldly sounds. The glow emanating from the scarecrow intensified, casting long, distorted shadows that danced across the cornfield. Suddenly, the chanting ceased, and a deafening silence engulfed the clearing. The scarecrow turned to face me, its glowing eyes fixated on mine. Panic surged through me as the dancers shifted their attention, their vacant gazes locking onto my presence. A guttural voice, neither human nor animal, reverberated through the air, echoing an ancient incantation that seemed to awaken forces beyond comprehension. In a desperate bid for escape, I turned and sprinted through the cornfield, the rhythmic pounding of my heart drowning out the eerie echoes of the ritual behind me. The once familiar landscape seemed to twist and contort, disorienting me as I fought to navigate the labyrinth of stalks. As I emerged, breathless and disheveled, the farmhouse loomed in the distance like a sanctuary. The night regained its natural sounds, but the memory of the spectral dance lingered, a chilling reminder that our farm harbored secrets that transcended the boundaries of the ordinary. Seventh Story, by Nathan Harris. Nestled in the quiet countryside of Kansas, my family's farm stood as a haven of simplicity amid the vast fields and endless skies. Little did I know that the very heart of our farm, the cornfields that stretched beyond the horizon, harbored a darkness that would awaken on a fateful night. I, Nathan Harris, considered myself a man of reason, but what unfolded defied logic and plunged me into a realm of terror. One ominous night, the moon hung low in the sky, casting an ethereal glow on the cornfields that bordered our farmhouse. The rhythmic chirping of crickets filled the air as I decided to take a solitary walk through the maze of cornstalks. The stillness of the night felt oppressive, and an unsettling feeling settled over me as I ventured deeper into the labyrinth. Amid the rustling leaves, a soft murmur reached my ears. At first, I dismissed it as the wind playing tricks, but the murmur grew into a dissonant chorus of voices that seemed to emanate from the very earth beneath my feet. The cornfield became a stage for an otherworldly symphony, and a sense of foreboding tightened its grip on my senses. The voices led me to a clearing where a dilapidated scarecrow stood, its straw limbs contorted into a grotesque semblance of a human figure. The moonlight cast eerie shadows on its face, revealing empty eye sockets that seemed to watch my every move. A palpable malevolence radiated from the scarecrow, turning the once peaceful clearing into a realm of supernatural dread. As I approached, the voices coalesced into a spectral chant, the air pulsating with an energy that defied explanation. The scarecrow's straw seemed to writhe as if imbued with a life of its own. Mesmerized and paralyzed by an unseen force, I watched as the scarecrow's limbs extended unnaturally, reaching towards me with a spectral intensity. The chant intensified, and the clearing became a nexus of supernatural forces. Shadows danced along the edges, taking on forms that defied the laws of nature. The once tranquil night now echoed with unearthly sounds that reverberated through the core of my being. Suddenly, the scarecrow's hollow eyes ignited with an otherworldly light, and the voices crescendoed into a deafening roar. I felt a surge of energy, an invisible force pulling at the very essence of my being. Desperation set in as I struggled against the spectral grip, but the cornfield seemed to close in, its walls becoming an impenetrable barrier. In a burst of terror, I broke free, stumbling backward as the clearing returned to an unsettling calm. The scarecrow stood motionless, the spectral voices silenced. Gasping for breath, I fled the cornfield, the echoes of the supernatural symphony haunting my every step. As I reached the safety of the farmhouse, the once familiar landscape felt forever changed. The cornfields, once symbols of agricultural abundance, now held a dark secret that defied rational explanation. The spectral dance and the malevolent force within the cornfield became a haunting enigma, leaving me to grapple with the terror that lurked beneath the surface of our seemingly ordinary farm. Eighth Story, by Isabella Martinez. Nestled in the heart of Oklahoma, my family's farm sprawled across the vast landscape, its fields stretching beneath the endless sky. The cornfields, a symbol of agricultural abundance, held secrets that would unravel one ominous night. I, Isabella Martinez, had always felt a deep connection to the land, but what transpired in those fields defied the natural order and plunged me into a chilling encounter with the supernatural. On a night painted in shadows, I found myself drawn to the cornfields that bordered our farmhouse. The moon hung low, casting an otherworldly glow on the rustling stalks that seemed to whisper secrets. The air was thick with an unspoken tension, and a sense of disquiet settled over me as I ventured into the labyrinthine maze. As I walked deeper into the cornfield, an inexplicable phenomenon unfolded. The stalks seemed to shift and contort, creating a disorienting optical illusion. The once familiar landscape transformed into a surreal dreamscape, and a subtle unease nestled in the pit of my stomach. Ignoring the instinct to retreat, I pressed on, the glow of the moon guiding my path. In the heart of the cornfield, a clearing emerged, bathed in an ethereal light. There, a group of locals, their faces obscured by the shadows, engaged in a ritualistic dance. The air hummed with an otherworldly energy, and the rhythmic movements of the dancers seemed to defy the laws of nature. In the center of the circle, a figure clad in a tattered cloak presided over the ceremony. Their hands traced intricate patterns in the air, and an ancient language echoed through the night, the syllables resonating with a haunting resonance. A primal fear gripped me as I realized that I had stumbled upon a gathering that transcended the boundaries of the mortal realm. As the ritual reached its zenith, the dancers' movements became more frenzied, their bodies contorting in unnatural ways. The clearing pulsated with an unseen force, and the very air seemed to vibrate with an unsettling energy. The figure in the cloak turned towards me, their gaze penetrating the darkness, and a chill ran down my spine. Caught in the spectral gaze, I felt a compulsion to join the dance, to become part of the ritualistic symphony that echoed through the cornfields. The world around me blurred as an invisible force pulled me closer to the ritual, my rational mind clashing with this supernatural compulsion. In a moment of clarity, I broke free from the hypnotic trance, stumbling backward in a desperate bid for escape. The clearing, now devoid of the spectral dance, returned to an eerie stillness. The moon, witness to the unnatural events, cast a cold light on the cornfield that seemed to conceal secrets beyond human understanding. As I emerged from the labyrinth, disoriented and shaken, the farmhouse stood before me like a refuge from the supernatural forces that lurked in the fields. The next day, the locals maintained a stoic silence, their gazes avoiding mine as if acknowledging the pact of silence that shrouded the mysterious ritual. Haunted by the encounter, I grappled with the knowledge that our farm, once a bastion of serenity, harbored a darkness that transcended the ordinary. The cornfields, once symbols of prosperity, now concealed a spectral secret, a dance with forces that defied the boundaries of the natural world. Ninth Story, by Benjamin Campbell. Nestled in the quiet countryside of Iowa, my family's farm stood as a testament to generations of hard work and resilience. However, on one fateful night, the tranquility of our farm was shattered, and I, Benjamin Campbell, found myself ensnared in a web of supernatural terror that lurked within the very fabric of the cornfields. The night was ink black, with only the faint glimmer of stars overhead guiding my path through the cornfields. The symphony of crickets and rustling leaves accompanied my solitary journey, creating an illusion of serenity that masked the horrors to come. A disquiet settled over me as I ventured into the heart of the labyrinth. Deeper into the cornfield, an unsettling sound reached my ears, the faint murmurs of a distant chant. Intrigued and unnerved, I followed the haunting melody, the rhythmic cadence pulling me deeper into the spectral landscape. The air grew thick with an unseen energy, and the moon cast elongated shadows that seemed to dance with malevolent intent. In a clearing at the heart of the cornfield, a congregation of locals clad in tattered garments engaged in a spectral ritual. Their bodies swayed to an otherworldly rhythm, and their vacant eyes bore witness to a reality that defied comprehension. In the center, an ancient-looking scarecrow stood, its straw limbs contorted in a grotesque semblance of life. As I observed the ritual from the shadows, a sudden chill enveloped the clearing. The temperature plummeted, and a spectral wind rustled the cornstalks, carrying with it a sense of impending dread. The scarecrow's hollow eyes seemed to fixate on me, and a guttural voice resonated from the depths of the supernatural gathering. The chant intensified, its syllables becoming a symphony of the arcane. Symbols and sigils etched into the soil glowed with an ethereal light, creating an otherworldly spectacle. Panic gripped me as I realized that the ritual sought to awaken forces that transcended the natural order. Suddenly, the scarecrow's straw limbs extended, reaching towards me with spectral fingers. The congregation's vacant gazes shifted in unison, acknowledging my presence with an otherworldly awareness. Fear rooted me in place as the ritual reached its crescendo, the supernatural forces converging in a maelstrom of malevolent energy. In a desperate bid for escape, I stumbled backward, crashing through the cornfield in a frenzied retreat. The haunting melody and spectral voices echoed behind me, creating a dissonant symphony that reverberated through the once peaceful landscape. The boundary between reality and the supernatural blurred, and the cornfield seemed an endless labyrinth of terror. As I emerged, breathless and disoriented, the farmhouse loomed in the distance like a beacon of normalcy. The night, now devoid of the supernatural resonance, felt like a reprieve from the spectral forces that lurked in the cornfields. The next day, the locals maintained a stoic silence, their eyes avoiding mine, as if acknowledging the unspeakable horrors that unfolded in the shadows of the cornfield. Haunted by the spectral encounter, I struggled to reconcile the rational world with the supernatural mysteries that now defined our farm. The cornfields, once a source of sustenance, now held a dark secret that transcended the boundaries of the natural world. 10th Story, by Grace Thompson. In the heart of Nebraska, my family's farm nestled between endless fields, and the corn, a staple of our agrarian life, whispered tales of an unnatural force that lurked beneath its emerald facade. I, Grace Thompson, considered myself grounded in reality, but a chilling encounter within the very fields that sustained us shattered my convictions. It was a night veiled in darkness, the moon obscured by thick clouds that hung low over the cornfields. The rustling leaves and distant hoots of owls accompanied my journey into the labyrinthine maze. An unnatural stillness enveloped me, amplifying the symphony of the night into an eerie cacophony. As I ventured deeper, the cornstalks seemed to close in, their shadows morphing into contorted shapes that danced on the periphery of my vision. Disoriented and intrigued, I pressed on, guided by an otherworldly compulsion that seemed to emanate from the very heart of the cornfield. A soft glow beckoned me to a clearing, where a congregation of locals clad in garments reminiscent of a bygone era engaged in a spectral dance. The air pulsed with an energy that transcended the natural, and the rhythmic movements of the dancers seemed to defy the laws of physics. In the center, an ancient scarecrow stood, its straw limbs pulsating with an eerie vitality. As I observed from the shadows, a palpable malevolence settled over the clearing. Symbols and sigils adorned the soil, and the dancers chanted in a language that reverberated with an unsettling resonance. The scarecrow's hollow eyes fixated on me, and a sense of dread settled in the pit of my stomach. The ritual reached a fevered pitch, the dancers' movements escalating into a frenetic dance that blurred the lines between the corporeal and the supernatural. The scarecrow's straw limbs extended towards me, as if seeking to bridge the gap between worlds. Panic seized me, and the once familiar landscape twisted and contorted, disorienting my senses. In a surge of fear, I stumbled backward, navigating the maze of cornstalks in a desperate bid for escape. The haunting melody and spectral voices pursued me, creating a dissonant symphony that echoed through the night. The boundary between the natural and the supernatural blurred, and the cornfield became an otherworldly labyrinth. As I emerged, breathless and disheveled, the farmhouse stood before me, a beacon of normalcy in the midst of the spectral chaos. The next day, the locals maintained a stoic silence, their eyes avoiding mine, as if acknowledging the unspeakable horrors that unfolded in the shadows of the cornfield. Haunted by the spectral encounter, I grappled with the knowledge that the very land that sustained us harbored a darkness that defied rational explanation. The cornfields, once a source of abundance, now concealed a spectral secret that transcended the boundaries of the natural world. The once stalwart foundation of our farm now stood as a testament to the thin veil between reality and the supernatural, forever altering my perception of the fields that stretched beneath the Nebraska sky. Thank you for watching whole video. Check this video you see on the screen, it's one of my favorite. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and smash that like to support my free and daily content for you. If you enjoyed this video, drop a comment and tell me what story got you chills.